My mom's entitled friend told me I should give my baby up for adoption because I'm a terrible father. I snapped and humiliated her publicly, and now my mom is demanding I apologize. My mom's entitled friend told me I should give my baby up for adoption because I'm a terrible father. I snapped and humiliated her publicly, and now my mom is demanding I apologize. Plus, all 3 updates. I was 18 and in college when I first met my mom's friend Carol, and she immediately acted very condescending towards me. The first thing she said once she heard I was studying medicine was, "Oh, so you want to save the world? How sweet, little dumb 18-year-old thinks the world can be saved." My mom laughed in response, and when I gave her a death stare for it, she doubled down and said that what Carol said was funny. From that day on, every time I met Carol, she'd make comments about me. She'd tell me my outfit looked awful. She called the books I like to read childish and stupid. And when she heard about my past in volleyball, she said that I probably only liked it because I could wear the spandex around the girls. My mom never stepped in to defend me either. The final straw came the day Carol interrupted a barbecue to say, "That's not how you cook, let a real woman show you." She physically pushed me out of the way and took over. After that, I started making an effort to avoid her, and I was successful for 6 entire years. Well, yesterday was my mother's boyfriend's birthday, and I went there with my fiance and our 6-month-old son. Carol was there, and even though I hadn't seen her in years, she still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. My child spent most of the afternoon sleeping, and when he woke up hungry, I went to feed him his bottle. When I came back, Carol was joking about how I was probably a terrible father. She started interrogating me about my parenting and calling me a bad dad in front of everyone. I finally snapped when she asked if I'd thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I yelled at her, asking her if she knows so much about parenting. Why does her ex-husband have full custody of her child? I asked her what kind of woman tries to sleep with her sister's boyfriend, and as a cherry on top, I told her to lose some weight with that gut. "No wonder no man wants to touch you with a 10F pole," were my exact words. I left with my fiance and son, and on the drive home, I was bombarded with texts from my mom telling me to come back and apologize to Carol right now. I told her there was no way that was happening and asked her if she had any idea what Carol said to me. She yelled that, of course she did, and asked why the hell would I get mad over her offering to make me a sandwich. My jaw dropped agape, and I started laughing my absolute butt off. You see, while Carol and I were having the altercation, my mother was in the bathroom, and so she didn't hear anything that was said. I presume all she heard was me yelling, walking out, and slamming the door behind me. Anyways, my mom asked me why I was laughing so much, and I told her no reason. She asked me again, and this time I told her Carol was lying. I said that I wasn't going to tell her anything, however, and she had to call Carol to find out for herself. I then went off on her for all the time she just blindly took Carol's side whenever she had upset me, and that it wouldn't surprise me the slightest if she didn't even call Carol, just blindly took her word and disregarded everything I'm saying. Right then, my mom hung up and I went to bed that night, not hearing another thing from anyone. My fiance did tell me she was extremely proud of me, however, because apparently my comments were not only badass, but also funny AF. I'm happy she thinks that. Update 1. I'll start by addressing the very frequent assumption that Carol has feelings for me. I really don't think that's the case. Her comments always came out as annoying and condescending, but never explicit in a suggestive manner towards me. But I will say that your comments scared the crap out of me, and the fact that the general consensus was F Carol was weirdly heartwarming. I also want to add that while I did regret what I said a little bit, I never doubted I'd done the right thing. I think most of my regret came from the fact that my 8 years of keeping the peace were over. It took some time for the relief to sink in. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do this since the barbecue incident, which was when I went from "I don't like that woman" to "I can't stand that woman." Anyway, my mother actually called Carol the day after I made my previous post. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this from her. When confronted about what actually happened, Carol apparently went quiet. She took a minute or so to respond before going, "Oh, I know." Carol went on to explain everything that actually occurred to my mom, who just listened without a word. From what I know, Carol tried to twist the story as her being genuinely concerned about me being a dad so soon, and that she didn't think I knew what I was doing. She did apologize to my mother. I don't buy any of what Carol was saying, though. The next day, my mom told me about the call. She said even after finding out the actual truth, that I should forgive Carol for the honest misunderstanding. She also told me I should apologize too, since I'd overreacted by telling Carol I hated her for such a small reason. Many of Carol's past comments were made with my mother close by. It often happened in the middle of conversations with other people, so she'd be too distracted to register them. She also wouldn't notice them most of the time. My mom doesn't pay enough attention to anything that doesn't either concern or anger her, and she'll most likely forget it until she gets angry at something else later. Anyway, she's like a goldfish. We also have different definitions of what's offensive, so she'd never think they were a big deal. I told my mother I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Carol, and that the adoption comment was far from being the only reason. I listed most of the condescending treatment and comments I could remember, including the ones from the party. She didn't remember any of them. I made it very clear that I'd hated Carol for years prior to the party, and that I had nothing to apologize for. I then stated that I'm no longer longer coming to any events Carol is invited to. My mother doesn't need to stop being friends with her or even stop inviting her to stuff, but she can no longer expect me to show up as well. I will ask her beforehand, and if she lies, I'll leave. My mother called me dramatic, but I pointed out that I've been avoiding Carol for 6 years now, and no one even noticed, so it clearly wasn't a problem. It obviously didn't ruin my mother's life. I'm not obliged to like her friends any more than she is to like mine. There was some back and forth, but she agreed to my terms. We spoke yesterday about something else, and she mentioned Carol was upset. I ignored that. I'm not going no contact with my mother, yes. I'm very well aware she's an eye-hole, and I came really close to cutting ties with her in the last few years, but I ultimately decided it wouldn't really fix anything. Maintaining my relationship with her has gotten a lot easier since I moved out, as we only see each other a couple times a month. She gets frustrated that I don't call or text much, but doesn't complain about it anymore. I don't see the point in going no contact with someone who no longer has any say in how I live my life. I'd rather just take note of what my mother did wrong when I was growing up, and then make sure to raise my own kid differently. She's on thin ice, though, and has been for some time. She's not allowed to babysit, mostly because I don't trust her to spend more than an hour alone with a baby without falling asleep on the couch. I began pushing for her to start doing therapy back when we got pregnant, and she finally got started back in June. Her behavior around me and my younger sister, who still lives between our very divorced parents, has improved a lot since, and I've made it clear to her that she won't be allowed near my son if she stops attending. This is the first time in my life my mother has improved her behavior. It's hard to be hopeful, but I'm trying, and if I ever do go no contact with my mother, it won't be because of Carol. So that's it. Overall, I'm glad I don't have to deceive anyone anymore. My relationship with my mother is rocky, but I won't dwell on it. My main responsibilities are my son, my fiance, and my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. Update 2. Openly avoiding Carol has been working pretty well. My mother has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever she invites me and my wife over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Carol's coming, she tells me. She hasn't lied so far, and doesn't usually insist when I tell her I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Carol once, at my mom's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew she'd be there. My mother promised she'd tell her not to talk to me. Also, some of my mother's friends' kids, most of whom I used to babysit, would be there. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I love them more than I hate Carol. I ended up spending most of the party with my son and the kids. Carol didn't talk. Not much of my mother was true to her word. My wife and I did catch her staring at us a couple times, but I decided to ignore it. I caught my wife staring back once, and the walking marshmallow I married actually managed to look threatening. I love this woman. You know who did talk to me? Carol's boyfriend. Yes, she has one now. He interacted with me twice. First, he came over to coo over my son before making a comment about how he needed a haircut. Ha, I already hate you. Later, he approached me and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no. He laughed and said, "Yeah, you're shy." He said all that in the same tone one would use to talk to a 6-year-old. I managed to keep my expression schooled. Otherwise, I would have told him I'm not shy. I just chose to spend the whole party with the kids because they were better company than him and his annoying girlfriend. So yeah, based on both my interactions with him, Carol's boyfriend is insufferable. In other words, they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My mother broke up with the man she was dating last year and has a new boyfriend. He is not annoying or psychotic, and I actually really like him. They won't last a year. My relationship with my mother is still not perfect, by the way, but it has improved. She's actually started apologizing to me a lot more often. I don't know whether it's the therapy or the fact that fatherhood has apparently made me terrifying, but I'll take it, and I'll give credit where it's due. She's a very good grandmother. I'm also glad my mother is respecting this Carol boundary. I very much don't want this woman in my life. Update 3. A few months later, everything had been going pretty well. My mom had actually been sticking to the boundaries I'd set around Carol, and for once I wasn't dreading family events. I'd go to dinners, bring my fiance and son, and we'd have a good time without any drama. I honestly thought I was done with Carol. Then came my mom's birthday. It was supposed to be a simple dinner, nothing too big, and I made sure to ask my mom if Carol was going to be there. She reassured me yet again that Carol wasn't invited. I felt relieved, especially since I didn't want to deal with her at all. So we went, and everything seemed fine. My mom was in a good mood. Her new boyfriend was being sweet, and it was nice catching up with some family friends. But then, a few hours in, guess who walks through the door? Carol. And not just Carol drunk. I shot my mom a look, and she looked just as surprised as I was. She hadn't invited her. Turns out Carol had heard about the party through someone else and decided to show up unannounced. She was loud and obnoxious, acting like she was everyone's favorite person when most of the guests were clearly uncomfortable. I tried to stay as far away from her as possible, just keeping an eye on my son and talking with a few friends. I figured worst case we'd leave early if she got too unbearable. But as the night went on, Carol got worse. She started making snide comments to people, mostly my mom, but I could feel her eyes on me the whole time. At one point, I overheard her drunkenly tell my mom, "You should have brought someone else's kid instead of his. At least then you'd have a chance at decent grandkids." I froze. I wanted to scream at her, but I stayed put, focusing on my son and fiance. I thought if I ignored her long enough, she'd eventually shut up. Then she tried to help. My mom was at the grill and and Carol, in all her drunken wisdom, decided she needed to show everyone how it was really done. She stumbled over, wine in hand, and physically shoved my mom out of the way. That's when things got dangerous. Carol, trying to flip burgers, knocked the entire tray of food onto the ground. Everyone was staring, including me. I was just waiting for my mom to do something, but instead she tried to laugh it off like Carol was just being Carol. That was the final straw. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stormed over and yelled at Carol, telling her she needed to leave. She turned to face me, smirking, like this was all some big joke. "Oh, little Mr. Knows Best, huh? You think you're all grown up now with your perfect little family?" I'd had enough. I snapped, "Carol, I'm done with you. You've been nothing but an arrogant, disgusting jerk for years, and if you think I'm going to let you treat me or my family like this anymore, you're delusional. Get the hell out of here." Carol just stared at me, not even trying to defend herself this time. My mom finally stepped in, and for once she was on my side. She turned to Carol and said, "You need to leave now." Carol looked genuinely shocked. She tried to laugh it off, asking my mom if she was serious, but my mom didn't budge. "I said leave, Carol. You've crossed too many lines and you're not welcome here anymore." Carol left, stumbling out the door with her tail between her legs. After that, my mom apologized to me, and I could tell she was actually serious. She admitted that she had been wrong to let Carol get away with so much for so long. For the first time, she chose me over Carol. It wasn't just words this time either. My mom hasn't spoken to Carol since.